The wind howled over the empty plains that stretched like an ocean of gold under a dying sunset, dust swirling in lazy spirals across the hard-packed ground as if the earth itself knew secrets it didn't want to share. And in the middle of that endless quiet stood Alara Kane, the tallest woman most folks in 3 territories had ever seen, a staggering 7 feet 3 inches of strength, bone, and quiet heartbreak, her long shadow stretching almost to the corral fence, making her look even more like a figure carved by the hand of some stubborn god. She'd been born in the back of a barn during a summer storm so fierce it split trees in half, and from the moment she'd taken her first breath, people had whispered, some in awe, some in mockery, that she was unnatural, too much woman for any man, and by the time she was 19, the whispers had hardened into cruel laughter, the kind that stayed in your bones, and though she could carry 2 hay bales on each shoulder, wrestle a steer to the ground, and ride longer and harder than any ranch hand in Dakota Territory, no man dared to take her hand, not because she was ugly, she wasn't, but because in a world where women were measured by how small, delicate, and soft they could be, Alara was a storm that could not be tamed. She'd heard it all. You're too big, a man would feel like a child next to you, and worst of all, a body like that can't carry a child, not right, words that stabbed deeper than any knife, until one day, tired of waiting for someone who'd never come, she decided she would spend her days working the ranch her late father had left her, alone, with no more dreams of love, until the day she saw him. His name was Calder Boone, a man with broad shoulders that looked like they'd been shaped under the weight of years of chopping timber, with hands calloused from honest work and eyes the color of storm clouds over the prairie. The kind of man who didn't flinch when a wild horse reared or when a drunken outlaw pulled a gun. He came to her ranch looking for work after a mining accident had claimed the lives of half his crew. And though he was built like the kind of man who could break a door down, there was a gentleness to the way he spoke, slow and measured, like he weighed every word before letting it fall. And the first time he saw Alara, he didn't laugh, didn't blink, didn't even let surprise cross his face. He just looked at her like she was normal, maybe even something more, and that alone made her uneasy, because men didn't look at her like that unless they wanted something. But Calder wasn't like other men. He didn't crowd her, didn't tease, didn't treat her like a freak or a challenge. He simply worked, fixing the fences, mending the roof, hauling water from the well without complaint. And in the evenings, he'd sit on the porch and talk about his life in the high country, about the sound of snow breaking underfoot and the way pine trees smell after rain, and she found herself sitting with him more nights than not, sipping coffee in comfortable silence. Weeks turned into months, and one spring evening when the air was thick with the scent of blooming sage, Calder found her in the barn, wrestling a broken wagon wheel into place. Without asking, he stepped in to help, his hands brushing hers, and for a moment their eyes locked, and something shifted, dangerous, unspoken, but real. And Alara stepped back, her chest tight, because she knew she couldn't let herself fall for him. Later that night, as if sensing her retreat, Calder asked why she always seemed to keep a wall between them, and that's when she said it, the words sharp and trembling, "My body's too big, I'm not breeding material." She'd meant it to sound cold, final, a warning that there was no future here, but Calder just stared at her, his jaw tight, and after a long moment, he stepped closer and said in a voice low enough to shake something inside her, "Don't you ever say that again, Alara Kane. Don't you ever let some fool's opinion tell you what you're worth." She wanted to believe him, but the voices from her past were too loud, so she turned away, thinking that would end it, but Calder wasn't done. He stayed. Through summer storms and winter freezes, through cattle drives and prairie fires, he stayed, and slowly, the distance between them shrank until one night in late autumn, under a sky so clear it seemed you could fall into it, Calder kissed her. Not with pity, not with hesitation, but with the hunger of a man who knew exactly what he wanted, and for the first time in her life, Alara didn't feel too big, she felt just right, like she belonged in someone's arms. The months that followed were the happiest she'd ever known, though part of her still feared the old words would prove true, until the morning she found herself sick at dawn, day after day, and realized her hands trembled not from fear but from the possibility that the life inside her might be real. When the doctor confirmed it, tears spilled down her cheeks faster than she could stop them, because after a lifetime of being told she couldn't, she was carrying Calder Boone's child. When she told him, she braced for surprise, maybe even disbelief, but he just pulled her into his arms and whispered, "Guess we proved them all wrong, huh?" And in that moment, with the wind rattling the shutters and the smell of wood smoke in the air, Alara knew she wasn't just a woman surviving in the Wild West. She was loved, wanted, and about to be a mother, and no one would ever take that from her. Friends, if this story touched your heart, if you believe in love that sees beyond appearances, then hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss another tale like this. Because out here on the frontier of the human spirit, there's always another story waiting to be told.